I received this in the mail not even an hour before my Uber arrived to get to the airport for a trip to Japan last month. If you really want to stress out a content creator, make sure to send them an overnight shipment that is scheduled to arrive right before they have to go on an international flight for vacation. So I ended up setting this thing up on the flight and I used it the entire time I was overseas. Now this video is not sponsored, but this phone was sent over via Team Pixel for review as a gift from Google. Since I generally buy phones that are reviewed on this channel, subscribing is the best way to show your support. We're almost to 110,000 subscribers. That's crazy to me. And it also helps keep me in your YouTube feed, since YouTube makes it seem like all of your favorite YouTubers are doing disappearing acts. Subscribing is really important. And shout out to Michael for being a s'more on my Patreon page. Thank you so much for joining. Let's go ahead and get into this review. So your colorway options are Obsidian, which is this one. There's also Porcelain and Bay. I got to see these in person during the event last month. I love the Bay color. Obsidian is my least favorite, as it's a lot harder to show y'all all the details like the bezels and everything on camera, since everything kind of blends in together. This phone starts at $999 unlocked for 128 gigs with 256 gigs or 512 gig options for $1059 and $1179 respectively MSRP, though it is getting near the holidays, so we might see some good sales. A 1 terabyte model is also available only in this Obsidian color for $1399. Now all storage sizes include 12 gigs of RAM. There is also a SIM slot on the side, but it does support a nano SIM plus an eSIM for dual SIM support. By the way, if you are interested in hearing my take on any of the 8 Pro cases or accessories, because there's some really cute ones, let me know in the comments and I will buy those and test them for you. Now the dimensions of this phone are basically the same as the 7 Pro, down to the dimensions of the actual display. If you like the size of the 7 Pro, you will like this one too. It's also fairly lightweight at 7.5 ounces, and this matte Corning Gorilla Glass Victus 2 back is so nice to hold. It's soft, it's not slippery. Even though I was caseless the entire time I was traveling around, I did not have to worry too much about dropping the phone, since it felt like I had a good grip on it. It is kind of soft and shiny and satiny smooth. It does hide my fingerprints really well unless I'm putting on lotion and then touching the phone. The few times I did drop it, really the only place that got scratched up was around the lenses, like right on the edges of this, with little micro scratches all around that lens casing, and I definitely scratched it up quite a bit, so there's a lot of little micro scratches along there. This aluminum frame is super shiny. You do see some fingerprints on there, but I do appreciate that the color accents the Obsidian design so well, so it definitely looks like they go together. Now, this is an upgrade from last year. This year, we have this one large glass cover for all 3 of the lenses, which makes it a whole lot easier to clean, but also if you want to put a lens protector on it, since this is just one large piece, you don't have to like stick on 3 different pieces. When it rained at a shrine in Hakone, I was able to use this phone with no issues as it's IP68, and I did run around more than one dusty temple with 0 problems if it fell in the dirt. And it definitely did fall in dirt more than once. In fact, at one point, I was trying to record on this thing and I fell down on this like ancient bridge, and I felt really bad because a bunch of people were taking pictures of this like ancient bridge from the like Edo period or something. So it was a little embarrassing, but the phone survived.
This is really embarrassing for me.
So this display is what Google is calling their Super Actua display. And the biggest upgrade here is that it is 1600 nits brightness HDR and up to 2400 peak whenever you're in bright sunlight, which is crazy high, but also appreciated since I was outdoors a ton when I was walking around places like Nara and Yokohama. It kept the display really easy to read and see in bright sunlight, and the colors looked accurate. It does still hit 120 Hertz, and it does have that 20:9 aspect ratio. It is a flat display this year as opposed to curved, so that's really nice if you prefer that flat display. To compare here the regular Pixel 8, which I do not have in hand, but I can always purchase one if you want to see a review of that as well. That one has an Actua display, which does not get as bright, but it is supposed to give you the same realistic HDR colors while you are in that direct sunlight. Now, this is a huge upgrade from the Pixel 7a, which I found to be hard to see in bright daylight at 1000 nits. Okay, we need to talk about battery life because this was a big concern of mine since the new 8 Pro carries a lot of computational upgrades like the new Tensor G3. Now, in my use case, I was doing a lot of touristy things, like I was using Google Translate constantly and cellular data and vlogging. The battery lasted long enough to get me about 7 hours of on-screen time pretty much every single day. And in a battery drain test, I started at 100% at 10 a.m. and this is like a traditional studio drain test where I'm really trying to drain it. I got it down to 3% at precisely 7 p.m. With the phone radios on, it was at full brightness the whole time and I was streaming video the whole time on it. It is rated at a 5050 milliampere hour typical size battery, and it can do fast charging via a 30-watt USB-C charger to get you about 50% in 30 minutes, which is on par with what I was expecting and what I got, as well as fast wireless charging via Qi at 12 watts, but you can get up to 21 watts with the 2nd gen Pixel stand. Now, battery share is also included. A nice touch, something that I was expecting with a flagship phone in 2023. I especially use this with my Pixel Buds Pro whenever I was traveling. It would be nice if they included a 30-watt charger in the box, since most of our chargers that we have traditionally in a household are not going to be 30 watts, but luckily I do have one in my home studio. And also, I wanted to mention, Nomad sent out these awesome travel-friendly chargers for me to test out with the new Pixel while I was traveling, and they're so nice. Now, I do think that the battery life could be better. You will likely have to charge your phone overnight, but for normal usage, it should get you through the day. Now, with the 8 Pro supporting Wi-Fi 7, I am able to get great speeds from my home network, which is fiber with Wi-Fi 6 APs. Interestingly, it does get better speeds than my S23 Ultra on my tests, and I was doing these side by side. I was expecting the same speeds or thereabout, but there was a significant margin between the two, so I was quite impressed with the speeds on the Pixel 8 Pro.
Impressive.
Calls made via 5G sounded clear, and connecting to my Pixel Buds Pro worked great for the long flights that I was on. And while riding on Shinkansen, I was able to hear everything just fine, and everything was clear and crisp, exactly as I was expecting. The 8 Pro supports Bluetooth 5.3 with dual antennas along with ultra wideband. Now, I wanted to give mention to this fingerprint unlock. This fingerprint unlock is still optical, as you can see here. That's why it's lighting up underneath my finger whenever I'm pressing down on it. And it's about the same as the 7 Pro. It's not as fast as an ultrasonic one, but it is pretty accurate. But we do have an excellent face unlock that is very fast and it seems very efficient, though it's not entirely accurate in low light settings. This face unlock has Class 3 biometric security, which I had mentioned previously thanks to the new Tensor G3, which means that it's secure enough to use for things like unlocking your banking app or payments made with Google Pay. In my experience, it only really had trouble whenever I was in those dark environments, so I would just switch to the fingerprint sensor to unlock anything that I needed to unlock. Audio through the stereo speakers is good enough for some regular entertainment or watching TikToks or, in my case, Instagram videos, Instagram Reels. I'm obsessed with sending those to my friends. But nothing really wowed me about the audio. It does get quite loud, but the bass still lacks. Now, I spent a lot of time using the cameras on the 8 Pro. The primary sensor is 50 megapixels still, but in auto, it does 12 megapixels, so you can enable that 50 megapixels optionally in the Pro mode. And here are the specs on the screen, as you can see here. Using the main lens at full 50 megapixels will get you some finer detailed shots, and I did notice that, but that also takes up more storage space, so it's kind of a win-lose situation there. But at 12 megapixels, I love the clarity of my photos just straight out of the phone. They're sharp and crispy. I don't feel like I lost any detail in those pictures. There's this gorgeous bokeh or aperture depth of field whenever you take pictures of close-up subjects. Like, you don't even need to use portrait mode to capture a stunning photo. In fact, I prefer not using portrait mode whatsoever. I just stick with the main lens and just use regular photography in auto. The HDR quality looks great. I took so many photos outside during bright sunny days, and it was really, really nice to be able to stand in the shade and still get a quality photo, even with a bright background, like I have in one of my photos of Tadaiji Temple. I brought the 8 Pro with me to this local Halloween pumpkin event, and yes, there is snow on the ground. Welcome to my home state. But Nightsight did an excellent job of capturing those photos at night. The lights did not blow out the whole image, and everything in darker areas still had detail without looking grainy. The ultra-wide lens does such a great job with capturing clear photos with a wider field of view, and I do think that it helps to have this new 48 megapixel quad lens with autofocus. Also, I was very impressed with the telephoto capabilities. My zoomed in photos and the videos were better on my Pixel than on previous models. My pictures are sharper, they're more detailed, even with faraway subjects. My photos of this life-size Gundam really stand out, since even the zoom pictures did it justice, and they captured little details like the writing next to the doors on the Gundam near its head. It was insane to me. I was pretty blown away by how good all of these zoomed in photos look. I feel like I should do a whole separate video just about new features and how to use them, because oh my god, there are so many cool new features and things that you can do with the Photos app and with the Pixel 8 Pro. For example, there's Best Take, which I'm sure you've heard about because they've been advertising the crap out of it, which my sister would probably love with her 3 kids. It looks at similar photos that you've taken, like when you take multiple selfies with your friends and one of them doesn't smile in the best picture of everybody else, but you can use Best Take to grab their face from one of the other shots and just layer it on top of the group shot so that everybody seems to be smiling in the same picture. I have seen some people saying, but it's fake, but like professional photographers who have taken pictures of like groups have been using software for ages to fix group photos in very much the same way, and it's not a fake smile. You actually smiled in one of those photos. Google is not creating a fake face and sticking it on you. That would be creepy. Your Pixel is just looking through all those pictures to find the one where you are smiling. And it can do this with any pictures in your library. It doesn't have to be ones that you have taken on the 8 Pro. Magic Editor is so cool. You can use it to erase subjects, sure, which we have seen in the past, but you can also select a thing and you can move it, you can make it bigger, you can use generative fill to fill in the spaces and the blank spaces. So I tested it on this picture of my friends and some deer at Nara, and I just erased some folks in the background, which we've seen before, and then I moved the deer, and my dudes, it worked, and I giggled like a child because I made that deer very large. It made me laugh. I was very excited. So I'm gonna toy around with this to make all my Instagram photos look super fancy or maybe a little weird.
I'm a little weirdo, so, you know.
Of course, again, it is not perfect, so getting the excellent shot before you hit the shutter is always going to be the professional thing to do and the best option. Now, having pro controls, for example, so you can control like the shutter speed and ISO and focus peaking, even which lens you're using to take a photograph, is so amazing, but I did not find myself using it very often. The focus peaking is so nice because you can really control what part of your image is in focus. I found myself using the ISO and shutter speed settings the most because mainly, sometimes, especially when you're overseas, lights will look like they are pulsing or they're flashing, or that you see these lines moving up in the screen on camera. And it's because our cameras might be set at a different shutter speed and because of how electricity currents feed into lights. Now, this is a whole thing that I really don't want to delve deep into here. Maybe I could do like a completely separate video about how currents work, but messing with those settings does fix the issue, usually. I also used the 8 Pro to vlog. Being able to record my content at 4K 30p with 10-bit HDR was very, very fun. In some cases, I could tell that it was really trying hard to stabilize my videos, and not all of my content came out looking as good as it would on my traditional Sony camera. That was more so the case in darker situations, like when I was walking around this path. Where was I? Was that Nico? I think it was Nico. Then in daylight. The internal microphone, it's fine, but there are instances where it does not pick up my voice as clearly quality as I would hope. So if I was to use this in more professional work, I would definitely use an external mic. So here I got the Amakase, I got the, I forget what those are called, and then the miso somethings. I feel like this started with a C. Overall, there were a few video hiccups, but it can definitely manage in most situations. One of my favorite features of video recording is the ability to get in-focus shots while you are zoomed. This is better if you can get a stabilized shot, like if you are on a tripod or if you can really hold your hands steady, but it still does capture those details really, really well. Again, we get epic new software features. One of my favorites is Audio Eraser, which, oh my gosh, this is gonna be so nice for vloggers. This identifies all sorts of sounds in your video. I tested this while walking over to the Gundam factory, and it was pretty windy when I was trying to talk on camera. You can use Audio Eraser to remove some of those noisy sounds from the video's environment. Now, I will say it's not perfect. For example, it makes my voice sound a little bit hollow, but it is good for a quick fix, and it does get the job done, and it will save me a ton of time in post-production on vlogs. So say for example, there is licensed music in the background while you are walking. You could erase that with Audio Eraser and not get hit with a copyright demonetization on a YouTube video, which definitely happens. So that's gonna be nice. And since we also have autofocus on the front lens, might as well test that too while I'm in this windy environment. And since we also have autofocus on the front lens, might as well test that too while I'm in this windy environment. We are heading over to the Gundam factory in Yokohama. It's super windy out here, so I'm gonna test the audio editor on the 8 Pro and see if I can get rid of the wind noise. We are heading over to the Gundam factory in Yokohama. It's super windy out here, so I'm gonna test the audio editor on the 8 Pro and see if I can get rid of the wind noise. We also need to discuss this lovely selfie camera. It was so great for group photos. I really appreciate a wide depth of view on a front-facing lens for my group photos, and I got some great group pictures. I was very happy with it. And shooting video vlogs was really nice, given the autofocus does a great job of keeping me in focus and going back to me when I switch from having another subject in frame back to myself. So here's some examples, but for an entire travel vlog shot on the Pixel 8 Pro, make sure to subscribe to my travel channel. It's just where I put up like travel vlogs and some more personal stuff, so it's called Shannon Travels the World. I felt like it was cute, so yeah. Anyway, tangent aside, this phone ships with Android 14, which does bring some more options to the lock screen, pretty stuff, you get new wallpapers, but you also get support for things like lossless audio via USB-C and 10-bit HDR. Now, I tested the new temperature sensor, which is found on the back here, and I don't have any other tools here to tell if the output is actually accurate, but I did test this on my coffee and it was room temperature, which makes sense because I always drink my coffee really slowly, my space heater, and then the window while it was snowing outside. It certainly did show me varying degrees based on the subject that I was pointing it at. So it does work, but I just don't know how accurate it is. Now, this is the first Pixel to come with 7 years of security and operating system updates. That's a huge deal, even though like nobody's talking about this, but this is a big deal because you could reasonably keep this phone for much longer, especially if you put it in a case and you take care of your devices, and not run a greater risk of vulnerabilities. So you could really get your money's worth out of one of these things. I also found interpreter mode to be incredibly useful whenever I was talking to folks in Japan, and I do think that it provided fast and pretty accurate translations for basic sentence structures. Like, for example, I went to this anime store and I was buying these vintage Sailor Moon goods, and I wanted to make sure that these little electronic toys from the 1990s actually worked and lit up and made noise. And I was able to have like full-on conversations with the girl that was working there, and she thought it was the coolest thing. So it definitely works, and it makes traveling internationally and like talking to people from other languages like so much easier, and it just like, it brings people together. I really like it. In terms of stress testing the phone, I did do some gaming, video editing, 3D Mark test scores on here. The test scores are here and they are fair, but they are unsurprising. So it's not the best phone in the world in terms of processing power, So it's unsurprising. Video edits were smooth as well as gaming, though to be fair, my choice in mobile games is pretty chill. I'm not doing anything that requires like super high FPS. I don't do like first-person shooters on my phone. I usually save that for my computer. I am a mouse girl. The Pixel 8 Pro has been such a fun phone to use, so much so that I keep on wanting to use it. I keep on going back to it. And that's because of Google's attention to software and making it such a fun experience. I love all the little features that they've added to make usability so important. Things that I never even knew that I should ask for, but now if I switch away from the Pixel, and I do that sometimes when I review a different phone, I miss it, and I miss it a lot. Like there's Night Sight, which is so nice for nighttime photography. Hold for Me, which I was just on the phone for 45 minutes with USPS today, and I used Hold for Me. It was awesome. The new Pro controls for photography in this phone are so cool, and how flawless translations made my travels. Being able to select text from the background apps window and customize your lock screen with cute little bubbly text without the need to download a third-party loader. Like all of these things are just little tidbits that make it so much better. Just maybe make the battery life a little bit better and charging speeds on par with what our friends see internationally, because here in the US, we got slow charging speeds. This is definitely a contender to be one of my favorite phones of the year, but I have tested a lot of phones this year, so we'll see. Bye y'all.